Hello, everybody. It's Brian Kaine, and it's content time. It's tier list time, boys and girls. My name is Brian. I do some tanking on the Blood Death Knight. We're pretty good this season. Currently at like 27, 21 IO. So it's like, just outside of top 1%. We're hoping to get there by the end of the season. And Kane, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kane. I play Windwalker. Um, Currently 2750 as of recording this video.
Very cool. I'm so glad that you are that score. Cool. So, yeah, today we're taking a look at this kind of goofy little tier list maker that I made for the season 4 Mythic Plus bosses, and we're gonna rate them based on how annoying they are. So we have S, A, B, C, and obviously Turbo Stinky, which are the ones that are gonna be super duper annoying, badly designed or badly tuned, what have you. This is gonna be like loosely in alphabetical order, although we just put the three ones for the Opera House first, just to get this out of the way. So starting with the first on the rotation, we have the Murgle, Urgle, and Tony that was at the Westfall story.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll say that one's pretty decently annoying. Everything hits really hard. The groundles aren't really clear when you're in them, when you're in the Tony phase. Um, when you're looking at like the Murgle girl phase, the water's like really annoying. It interacts badly with affixes. Like this week it's currently storming, which has some pretty nasty relations with that. Um, and this is one of those bosses where it contains like a lot of the old design, where once you have a bunch of melee, it makes it hard because of the like pseudo storming thing that is weird, and also the bubbles are weird. I don't know. It's not great. It's not the worst of the three, but it's not good. What do you think?
Um, yeah, I'm a little more biased towards it being really bad. Just kind of as a melee player, it just you spend like a large majority of your time not actually touching bosses and just kind of
True.
dodging the 50,000 mechanics that are all coming out at the same time that it's just very space restrictive um in a way where you know that you just don't have uptime on the boss, and anytime you lose uptime, like, that's just turbo unfun.
Big big agree on that one here. Um, I don't think it's quite Turbo Stinky tier. I'll put C. I'm thinking.
um I'd probably put it in D, but I'm trying to get like a baseline here looking at everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's amongst the like worst. I think there's definitely ones that are worse. Like,
Yeah, that's fair. I'm good with
yeah,
C.
yeah, I think C is probably fair.
Okay, we'll go C.
Um, and then next we have the Beauty and the Beast one.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think this one's fine. Obviously, like, um, it's probably the best of the three, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely the best of the three for sure.
Yeah. And mostly everything's like either avoidable or controllable. I think it's nice that you get a lot of choice over the ads. So like, depending on your group, you can choose which ones you want to deal with near the end. Like if you like which order you want to kill the bosses in, which I think is like a good design choice, right? At least it gives you some choice there. And so far, nothing's been too much of a problem. I think the soup sprays might become a problem when we actually get a tyrannical week on this one, but
Yeah, yeah,
those
that's
could be
probably
kicked.
yeah, that's probably the main thing I'd say with it is there's two extremely important kicks, one of which you have to kick every single cast, and then one of which only casts every so often. And yeah, we haven't had it on Tyrannical yet. On Fortified, it was hitting pretty hard. So I
Yeah,
can see that being a problem. What, next week when we get it? Um, Other than that, I mean, it's
yeah,
fine. Like, it's not, there's nothing special about it. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just kind of the preferred boss for the opera event. So
yeah. Do you think?
I'd probably go B. I don't know if I'd really put it in A. I don't really like. I
Yeah,
mean, that's kind of personal preference, I guess. I don't really like the boss, but
yeah.
uh,
Nothing special about it.
yeah, something I'm good with B.
Yeah. Next we have Wicket. This is straight turbo stinky dog butt. That one's bad.
Uh,
That one's just not good.
yeah, it's just like it's a very poorly designed boss. Like, it's not crazy mechanically, and I know they've done recent like tuning to the damage that it does, like all the like kind of other mechanics and stuff. But it's just super not intuitive. You have to like you basically have to soak the gravity circles constantly, otherwise you're just going to run out of room. But you have to make sure that you're um, saving enough for the phase where you actually need to go up. But
Hmm.
the boss casts it completely randomly, so there's no way to predict or measure the amount of like circles that you can soak before the mechanic happens, which is just it's really just poorly designed.
Yeah. Well, and too, I think the other bad part about it is the ads. There's not like a like you like they're the kind of ads where you'd want to group them in and cleave them down,
And
but
you just
there's
can't.
not an easy way to do that. And even sometimes when we were attempting it last week, they would be like immune to the grips randomly, depending. And I'm not really sure what caused it, and they just wouldn't get gripped in. So you only get one grip every 15 seconds as a Blood Death Knight, and then you know, um, like if you don't have a DK this season, I don't even know what you do. Like if you're running one of the other tanks, and even with a Blood Death Knight, you're getting one every 15 seconds, maybe if you're lucky and it doesn't bug out on you. Um, I don't know. Bad boss, bad design. It's just I think too, it's like kind of I don't say insulting, but when you look at like the boss in the end of Ardenweald from DOS in last season, I forget their name.
Dealer's Axa.
Um yeah, Zaxa
Mm-hmm.
just feels like the same concept but much better implemented in
Yeah,
every way.
I agree. I mean, it's literally the exact same mechanic, just you know,
Yeah.
4 years earlier and not done nearly as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're bad.
Yep, that's a D tier for sure.
Yeah. Then we have Curator. Um I don't know, I think Curator's like mostly fine. I think the biggest problem with it is the ads.
Yeah,
They again, it's another kind of old dungeon design, did not know how to make things not awful for melee kind of problem.
no kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
So I'm gonna start off just by right out of the gate throwing it in C.
yeah,
Um,
agreed.
and this
E for
mostly comes
Curator.
down to tuning. So currently, the ads that it spawns scale on fortified, not to random, which it's a problem in itself. But the fact that they already have pretty high scaling health and damage, and then so you also do that on fortified week, which it's a boss fight, so it's really supposed to be a lot easier to do. It's actually harder on fortified week. Um, so you pair that with, um, or rather, um, it creates this problem where unless you're using some kind of cooldowns on ads, you're just going to get overrun and get screwed over. But it's contradictory because you need to be saving your cooldowns for the burn phase, otherwise you're just going to run out of floor space before you kill the boss. And
Yeah.
then to compound on top of that, it's pretty toxic for melee because of the fact that the orbs, when they dash to the tank, do an AoE around them, and pretty much are just not able to hit them for 50% of the time when it's jumping to the tank, and I have to run away, and it just feels super super bad as melee. I think the fight has like really good potential to be good, but with the current tuning, it just makes it really.
Yeah, big agree. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, as you noted, the biggest problem with the ads, they hit 6 yards around the tank, basically, assuming the tank's doing it right and targeting it. And so, that's going to be outside of a lot of melee's like range of abilities, especially like you've noted before, if it's on, if the ad is just floating around and is kind of on the other side of the tank that you want to be on. And I think the other problem too is I think as the keys get higher in scaling, like you're just not even going to be able to live through the end of a second evocation. So it just becomes a problem where it's like, your DPS check just starts, getting out of control um as the keys go on.
Yeah, I definitely think I did forget about that part. Yeah, that's definitely it's kind of a weird. It makes the boss have like a double enrage,
Yeah.
where the first enrage being running out of floor space, which can be managed if coordinated enough to minimize your usage on puddles. But then it also has the second enrage of pretty much if you hit a third evocation, you're
Yeah.
the damage that comes out after that ramps up, and the third one it's just gonna one shot you. Fortified or tyrannical doesn't matter. You're dead.
Yeah. Because on the 25 Tyrant that or not 25 fort we did, the second evocation even was like dropping people to 10% health. So I just think that's probably gonna get out of control fast without a lot of insane stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's probably not fun on that guy. And then we
Yeah,
have enforcers. Um, I don't know. It's like fine, especially now they've made a change so where um the boss's like health or the shield scales with key level, which
yeah,
makes it like doable. It's like fine.
yeah, definitely. I think it's probably I'd put it A, not quite S, but it's definitely probably one of the best bosses right now.
You think?
Mostly, yeah, mostly because of that shield change. The shield change, made it um it's just a lot more viable to play the boss the way it's intended to be played now.
Hmm.
It's not particularly a mechanically difficult boss, but it is um, it requires a little bit of play, with the whole not popping shield, managing your space. It's a little clunky with some of the frontals and stuff. The lava wave kind of starting from 5 yards out, but also kind of not really. The boss's charge being a frontal, but really more of a backle. Um,
Yeah, definitely
um,
weird.
but I think one of the redeeming qualities of the boss is the ability to pull in additional trash later into the
Yeah,
fight.
big
I
agree.
think that's big points for that boss in particular.
Hmm.
Um,
I think we can probably agree too that pre-change, like when the on release boss is S, when you could just cheese all the mechanics, make it not do anything.
yeah,
But yeah, after
honestly,
that,
I'd actually put it lower with the cheese.
really,
Yeah, I think from a like key pushing perspective, like yeah, S tier, but from an actual like boss design perspective, nah. I mean, it made the fight nothing, right? It wasn't even a trash fight. It was just sit there and spam AOE.
I can agree to that. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm gonna go A. I think A is
yeah, I
a good spot for that boss.
think it's fair. And the next we have Mechagon Garden.
Um,
I don't think there's much to say. That it just kind of gets overwhelming and annoying and too much stuff really fast. I think it's just a C. I don't think it's like impossible. You're like whatever. Like this is like like oh no, like I'm
yeah,
worried about wiping in Garden for the most
yeah.
part
Well,
probably.
yeah, I think this boss is particularly bad on the melee versus range discrepancy. Particularly because of the cheese that range are able to do by standing on the stairs, avoiding all mechanics. Melee kind of gets stuck in this perma dodging every single thing on the ground that all happens to be the same color, so it's really hard to see sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, nah, it's uh, yeah, I'm gonna go C on this one. I don't think
Yeah.
it's
I do think
particularly
this
good.
boss also falls victim to the this boss was made before Shadowlands Covenant abilities came out. So you have stuff like Wild Spirits, Death Dew, Res Arrow sometimes, Kyrian Spear that'll hide like the little blue disorient effects on the ground.
Yeah, that's
And that can
true.
be particularly
That's
frustrating.
super true. Jeez, man. Warriors, man, they cover everything with
I
that
know.
spear.
Can't see nothing.
Yeah.
We got Gabo, King Gabo, King Trash Gabo Man. Um, man, I'm actually gonna say S tier. I like this boss. I think he's cool.
Um, I actually would probably say B.
Really?
Yeah, mostly because so if you look at the fight, you know, for what it is, it's basically a patchwork fight that has this weird RNG bug. So the main mechanic, right, obviously is the tank
Red
soak
Smash.
that gives you the debuff to go activate the um pylons or whatever you want to call them to kill the ads for you. If you don't, you're kind of just going to die because the ads are going to do pretty insane damage to you. Now, it's fine. It's kind of cool, I guess, whatever. Um, but the problem is there's just this weird, it is back in BFA too, but just this weird bug where sometimes you'll soak and you won't get the debuff and then you're just missing some of your pylons. I think the other problem too is the way the fight interacts with affixes, particularly explosive, as it's spawning
Sure.
ads all over the place, and despite the fact that they're being killed instantly by the pylons, they're still spawning explosives, and since they're being killed instantly, no one's really paying attention to it. Yeah, it's not a bad fight. It's a little boring, um, but some of those kind of goofy interactions um, is why I
That's
want to drop
true.
it to B.
I didn't think about that either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't think about too. Storming and a volcanic also can knock you out of the soak, and that
Yes.
can on high enough tyrannical keys that'll just if one person's like missing the soak, it'll just kill the other four.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I'm gonna go B on that.
That's fair. I got Gunko. I think Gunko can go in A.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's it's kind of patchworky too, but at least it's decently entertaining enough where you're kind of you have some tech you can do, and there's at least a little bit of figuring out like and some optimization you can do there. Like I don't think there's much to say about it, but I think it's no, it's probably A.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll put it in A. It's a little easy. Really nothing about the fight, but it is a fun fight. Sometimes like it's straightforward, kind of a break from constantly.
Yeah.
Go A.
HK. I don't know. I think that's a C. That's a C boner.
Really.
Yeah, I just don't like gimmick fights. I think the maze kind of stuff just always I don't know, I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. I think there is some cool elements to like trying to plan around like one phasing it and like doing stuff with the enlarger. I think that's kind of cool. But overall I just think gimmicky fights that you can wipe on, through I don't say no fault of your own, but through like because you're not good at platforming in WoW, I think it's just weird. I'm
Um.
never a fan of platforming in this game.
Yeah, that's fair to an extent. So I actually put it in A.
Oh my goodness.
So here's my reasoning. Um. Basically, it's a fight, particularly on a higher key. Um. You need to plan very carefully to be able to hit the. The best example of that would be Mission in push. As made it down of how they got the one phase in their five, because the damage simply just does not exist if back one.
Yeah.
So being able to plan a strategy, in this case, theirs was the tank would finish by himself. Yes, would be basically as far down as it without dying to the fire on the ground, and Ellesmere would be right between, and so he would Ellesmere would grip as soon as finished, and then they had a lockgate set up to. And I think being able to do cool stuff like that, is cool. I will give you that the platforming is a little bit goofy, albeit it's super easy. We just kind of make it harder on ourselves by trying to jump and speedy about it. Um, just kind of go the patient route and go through it slowly. But yeah, mostly the strategy around phasing. I'd put it in S tier.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm still not gonna budge. I hate the gimmick. I'm still putting C on mine,
Okay.
but I definitely see where you're coming from. That is really cool. I just think the gimmick weighs it down too much for me personally. Just hate the
Okay.
gimmick.
You want to meet me in the middle on B?
Sure, like that's fair.
All
That's
right.
fair.
We'll call it average.
I think Time Captain. I think we can both agree on this one. This is an S tier. This is a banger boss.
Banger. Had nothing to
This is
really
my
say
favorite
about it.
one.
Just a banger because our captain is a dragon.
The captain is a dragon. Look, no, but on a more serious kind of tone, I do love the amount of like teamwork you can really put into this boss. Like
Hmm.
every class, or like most every class, kind of has a part they can play in a role. They can play to like help control the ads. It's not like ever mandatory that everyone has to like be scrambling around doing anything, but like one person like helping on each one is to help control the ads to help get like the right
Hmm.
shot lined up is like usually enough, and it's like super satisfying when you do. And I think the boss is like totally fair. Like if you miss the shots a bunch, it can get overwhelming.
Hmm.
But again, there's still it's not like you're screwed permanently. You can like CC the ads, knock them back, ring a piece, root,
Hmm.
vortex stuff like that. And I don't think this boss I think scales infinitely perfectly, right? Because the ads get one shot by the breath.
Hmm.
This boss doesn't necessarily get harder on higher keys outside of you need like it's just a timing thing, right? It doesn't become like okay, it's doable on a 25 and on a 27 this boss is impossible. Like if you can kill it on a 25, you can kill it on a 30, it just might take you longer.
Yeah, I kind of have to hard agree on that. definitely have some of the best and worst rot plays on that boss. So yeah,
Banger boss though,
banger boss,
absolutely.
banger
And
boss.
and this is like one of the only boss fights in the entire game that gets your tank involved at all,
That is true. Very
which I'm a
true.
big fan of, obviously. Huntsman. Oh man, I don't even know.
I'm gonna start right out of the gate, dude. That's a D. That is a
I
D
think
tier
that's
boss.
yeah. I think yeah. The shared
So
suffering is too
so let me give my reasoning for
strong.
it.
Yeah,
So yeah, for one, yeah, the shared suffering is incredibly unintuitive. Having a group soak that overlaps with a charge from the horse that is pretty much all but impossible to not have it be in the charge makes it an impossible soak. It can't happen, which means the only viable play for that boss is for your tank to somehow run his ass out of it, but not too quickly, or it'll recast it again and then kill them. So it's so unintuitive. Um, the spectral charge is incredibly unfair because for the most part, you cannot see where the openings in the horses are until it's basically too late because it's already in the middle of the room. As well as your range. Not that I really care because range privilege, they get to stand out, but it can spawn on top of your ranged and just one shot them before they even have a chance to react. So that's not cool. Um, Also, I think they removed this recently, but I definitely feel like I got smacked by it a couple of days ago. Um, there's this weird mechanic that it does where Huntsman, when he is mounted, will melee the closest target to him, not necessarily the tank. So again, just another super anti melee mechanic that's kind of has no business being in the game.
yeah, and it's
Um,
not obvious that that's what's gonna happen either. Like,
it's not. It just kind of happens.
yeah,
Usually on your death log, you kind of look and you're like, I got meleeed. All right, I had aggro somehow. No, that's just kind of a dumb mechanic that the boss does.
yeah, big ol' stinker. Cool. And we got Hilbrand. I definitely think Hilbrand probably goes somewhere between S and A. I think he loses points in the fact that like he does have that problem where his mechanic is time based. So on Tyrannical, like every time you get one, it's like adding, like sometimes like adding 10
Um,
seconds to the boss doesn't actually just add 10 seconds, it adds, 40 seconds because you have the phase to do. But I think the phase is kind of neat.
yeah, I actually think it's fine. Like, yeah, it does make it a bit longer due to the time based phasing, but um, for the most part, it's a very easy phase to do. You can do it super quickly. Um, I mean, geez, I don't know what we average. We probably average tops like 10 seconds on the phase, so it's really not too bad.
Yeah,
I think I'd put it in S tier for the most part.
really.
Yeah, because I think it also has some other cool interactions. Um, so ad management is like kind of interestingly cool on that fight because they have multiple different things that you need to be worrying about. You got to kick the ads. You got to stop him from channeling on the boss, which is kind of like a pug killer there because no one seems to want to do that.
Sure.
But the beam that follows you, I didn't like it at first, but now, particularly on Windwalker, I found some cool tricks that are super fun. Where I can basically just run out early, start the fire all the way out on the wall, and just go right back to the boss with the flying serpent kick. So I think it's a good fight. I think I'd definitely put it in S tier. It's not time Captain Hook, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it.
I also think it's got good meme potential because you can draw stuff with the lines. And
I don't know what
also,
you're
like
talking
one of my
about.
favorite pictures of all time.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Well, one of my favorite pictures of all time is the one where the person sent the like imager link of the console. Like they uploaded like they took a picture, they uploaded the console to Imager, and then posted the link in their party chat instead of just typing out the sigils. I thought that was particularly
That's
funny.
super good. I like that. That's great. All right, we're going in S tier.
Yeah,
As a good boss for sure.
yeah. Oh, got King Metatron. Uh, I don't know. This one's like fine, like B tier. I don't know. It's like whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of a super melee unfriendly boss, but I kind of like it. Um,
Yeah,
Mostly, so it definitely has some bullshit. Um, but it's a very like skill reliant boss, or skill's not the right term. Awareness check boss, particularly for melee. So the strat that we normally do is your melee just kind of tuck into one of the corners on the sides. And this is to make sure that the beams aren't hitting, multiple people, right? It's just going into the wall. Um, the problem that comes out of this is as the orbs start dashing around, um, there's really no good way of telling where they're coming from. Just kind of have to guess. So that's where kind of the awareness comes in, and that's something that I do really like about the boss because I don't know, kind of good at it, and I like it.
Sure. I think
Um,
high B then I think it's probably fair.
yeah, I think High B is good. I don't think it's a banger boss by any means. Oh,
Cujo. I kind of think Cujo would be like low S for me actually. Um,
hmm.
there's nothing like particularly BS or annoying on that boss, I don't think, and it has lots of cool tech on almost every mechanic that you can do to help your team in some way. Like obviously you can like do like the cheese line of sight corner box strat to continue DPSing the boss, which is like a high skill tech maneuver that's also fairly low risk if you have the safety weak aura. Because if it's in the wrong spot, you just don't leave, right? And then it's got like the shadow metaled feign death, basic
Yeah,
stuff.
I'd definitely give it points for the Shadow Meld Feign Death of the Explosive Leap. But as far as the LOS kind of cheese, I actually would take points away for that. Particularly because it is it's easy and difficult at the same time. Because while the safety weak aura does tell you when you're safe, it does not tell you when you're safe and can hit the boss. So you kind of spend, especially for melee, you spend a lot of time kind of just dicking around behind the boss trying to find this right spot because if you mess it up, one tick and you're dead. Um, and it's also a thing that's very out of your control. But so also if you remove that cheese mechanic, it's a fight where um, on a timer you're just losing uptime because you have to LOS. So I I know you said you want to do like low S. I'd concede like low A, but realistically, I kind of want to put it in B.
I think A is. I think I can settle for A.
Okay, we can go A.
Maiden.
All right, all right.
Um,
Hot take, S tier.
yeah. No, I'll actually with all the changes, I will.
It's a straightforward boss. It has one singular mechanic, and it is like just a fat DPS check. That is the mechanic, and I think that's super cool. The
Yeah.
pass fail boss, um, very healer intensive, which I think some people like, some people don't. I don't know. I can't really speak to that. Um, it definitely rewards good play.
Mhm.
Um, geez, I think we've wiped to it quite a few times from people just sending everything on pull and not being able to pop the shield. So yeah, no, I think that's a banger boss.
Yeah, I'll agree. I also think as a side note too, again, I always give points for tech. You can do lots of cool stuff with like Shadow Word Death so that you don't have to like sit in the poo poo to break your thing. They just removed it, but there was the taunt tech, whereas a tank you could not go in the poo poo and you could just taunt right before the shield came up. It would
Mhm.
melee you and break you out of the mass repentance.
Very true.
You can sack somebody who's in the poo poo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess even like potentially as a tank player, you could like use the um, I was just thinking about the huntsman trinket that I have, where it kind of like makes somebody else sack you. You could potentially even like use that, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
to like get somebody out. I mean, it's probably not worth running the trinket for just for that, but if you like had a hunter or something where
Mm-hmm.
like you really just needed to have something like that, it could definitely be used as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Good fight, man. Really good fight.
but mail room. I don't know, man. I've come up on this boss a lot. I used to hate it because of how much uptime you lost,
Yeah,
but
I'm with you on that. Very split.
I think it gains points for like the male mental kind of stuff you can do with there. Because it feels like it rewards like you for like blasting and good coordinated play with like, throwing like the male boxes to like one person instead.
Yeah, having a goalie.
It's got kind of like a soft enrage to the puddles. I don't know. I guess B would probably be if we're torn, it's probably a B kind of boss.
Yeah, I'd probably go high B on it. I do, uh, I guess more of a personal thing for like Windwalker specific. But I do really like that I can run multiple bombs as a Windwalker and less uptime than I would on most other melee DPS. That feels pretty good. Um, yeah, I think overall it's fine. It's not a great boss. It's not the worst boss. I'm good with B.
Yeah, pretty simple. I
Mhm.
definitely think it's got one of the more unique designs too. Like it's a it's a boss that actually has you doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just a patchworker. Like,
Mhm.
oh, now there's ads. It's got like a cooler little thing to it.
Yep.
Um, Mana Devourer. Uh, I'm gonna say it's probably C or D just because of the overlaps that you can have. Where it's like if the big laser comes out while you're soaking orbs, there's just like nothing you can do about that, and that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, I'll probably go C. I don't think it's quite
Yeah,
trash tier, but it's definitely kind of a stinker because it's also just a super boring boss. Like
yeah,
especially the way we do it, where you're pretty much soaking all the orbs. The rest of us, it's kind of just a target dummy fight that does some damage. So yeah, I'm gonna go C.
yeah. And I think it also interacts badly with affixes too, because you got to run around and get all those orbs. If you have like if a storming knocks you up or volcanic like prevents you from getting an orb, like I don't think we've really wiped that yet, but I can see a scenario where you like would get stormed and then miss a bunch of orbs because of that, and then wipe, and that's just never fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Menagerie, I also kind of want to put in C. I don't know. I just never liked Menagerie. I think the transition between second and third boss is like always super annoying. Third boss is like another like no uppy timey boss. Um, I just feel
Yeah,
like oftentimes when you lose people on that boss, it's like stuff that just doesn't feel fair.
yeah. I think I'd probably go more in the B range than C because I think comparatively, if you look at like what we've already got in the C tier, I
That's
think
true.
I just don't see a world where Menagerie is like in the same level as those. Because like it's an okay boss. I mean it's got some cool tech. Death's Advance soaking the orbs is like super cool. Um, kind of strategically juggling orb soaker
Funny.
around, pretty neat. Being able to do like freedoms or tiger's lust and stuff on the chains is kind of cool. Yeah, it's not great, but I definitely think probably more of a B than a C.
That's fair. I also think that addendum, looking at what we've gotten B, I definitely think we should actually move HK up to A. I think I'm gonna concede. I think it's better than the bosses we have in B tier. Like
Okay,
HK probably goes to
okay, move it up.
A. Moros, I think is turbo stinky, D tier. Bad boss. Don't like it.
Ooh, ooh.
And I'll just say mostly because it's not very pug friendly. I think it's a very unintuitive boss.
Um.
Um,
All right. So hot take. I go A too.
really, why is that?
So I don't particularly care about pug friendly or not. Um. I don't think that really matters in terms of how good or bad a boss is.
Sure.
What I think makes this boss good, now that they've done some tuning to it, is it's extremely you are very rewarded for um, organized play. And the best example is how we do it with our Resto Druid, being able to time the 60% push with a Cyclone so that you can completely ignore the final ad, which is the most dangerous. I think is just absolutely makes that boss a banger because the fact that we can attack like.
Okay. I actually think I'll come to you on that one.
Okay.
We can put a low A. I definitely do think it's annoying that it's not very like intuitive to do, and I think wrote. I don't know. It's been nerfed, so maybe it's fine now. I think that can get kind of out of control, but
Yeah,
I think A is fine.
yeah.
And then we have this guy who I forget his name, second boss of Grimrail. I don't know. It's like fine. I personally don't like it a lot because I just hate like having to run all over to grab ads, and then it's always like inevitably it's like, oh well, I got frontal. Well, it's like yeah, I mean because there's like
Yeah,
there's just ads over the
I'll
place, and then you can get knocked off on storming, but it's like the cannons
yeah.
are cool.
I think I'll probably put it in low B. I think it's realistically a pretty bad and unfun, or not unfun, but boring fight. Um, but the redeeming quality is pretty much straight up the fact that it's kind of fun to shoot stuff with the cannons and do a bunch of damage if you haven't filtered it
Yeah,
out on details yet. So yeah,
yeah,
I'll put it low B.
yeah. I'd say
But
like low to mid B
yeah,
somewhere in there.
I'd say the main issue with the boss, like, despite the fact that it's boring, is again it's an uptime boss. If you're getting
Yeah,
targeted with the suppressive fire, you have to just run away in LOS, which is not fun. I think the RNG factor of which ads you get is kind of annoying because it determines how fast you can do the boss. Um,
yeah,
you have to hit it with 3 of the mortar shells, and we've definitely had some runs where we got, I believe it's the boomers that spawn it or that drop it. So we've definitely had runs where we get 3 boomers super early, and we've definitely had runs where we're fighting the boss for like 3 minutes before we see our first boom or our third boomer. So yeah, it's
sure.
definitely got some really goofy stuff, but again, like, I think it just has a little bit of that redeeming factor because it's kind of fun to just blast the
Last,
cannons.
yeah. I think that's a good summary. Yeah. All right, this is gonna be my hot take here. I actually think Flesh Render Nook or whatever. I think it's an S tier boss because you can just pull. He's like like without the dog, he's a glorified trash mob. You can just pull trash on him all you want, and he's like can't be reset basically. I don't know. I think it owns because like
Yeah, I
even on
think
Tyrannical weeks, I feel like the dog isn't even alive that long. I know you hate the dog, but
yeah, I think you already know where my take's gonna go on this one. Yeah, I would probably go D tier, and
really,
one singular change could move it up to, and you already know what that is. Adding a telegraph for the frontal that the dog,
yeah,
as well as changing the hitbox. The hitbox is incredibly unfair. Anyone who's played Melee knows exactly what I'm talking about. You standing 20 yards behind the boss, and he still hits you with his butt frontal. So
yeah.
yeah, that, if they fix that, it's an S tier boss for sure. Um, I mean, I'll meet you in the middle in, like, I guess low A maybe. I do think that pulling trash onto the boss is super like big uppies on points for that. The fact that you can pull trash in before or on pole and at the end of the pole, it's super cool. Um, the cheese that range get to do, while unfair, kind of, I guess, weird tech.
True.
Um, yeah, again, just another fight that's really melee unfriendly. But yeah, it is what it is. If you want, I'll meet you on A for that one.
That's fair. Uh, then we got Oasis. I don't know. It's like fine. I don't particularly like love Oasis. Obviously, it's like basically a free boss. Like you're probably never gonna wipe on it. Obviously, we did that one time, but we don't talk about that.
True, true. I forgot about
Um,
that. Yeah,
the mini game is kind of cool. I mean, it's not my favorite. I don't know. It's
yeah.
like
I'd probably go.
whatever.
Yeah, I'd probably go B tier for, because it's really average. There's nothing special about it. I'd say the
Be
only
boring.
redeeming factor that is kind of fun on the fight is um, maintaining your haste buff throughout the fight, which a lot of people kind of just opt out of. Um, I think it's kind of a fun little part of the boss, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty, yeah, good
Yeah.
B tier.
Next we got Oshir. I like Oshir. I think yeah, I mean I think it's annoying that it's kind of buggy with like the Rylock and like some stuff breaking it, some stuff not. I think the dog's probably a bit overtuned. I think they brought the feeding time to a point where it's mostly fair. And I kind
Well,
of like that, like you're mostly basing your fight around like, we have to have like burst for the dogs and then burst for feeding time.
the main problem is, so they nerfed the wrong part of feeding time. They nerfed the health percentage required to break it, not the damage. The damage really is kind of, I mean, as you've seen multiple times, I've died through multiple defensives. Yeah, it's just I think the fight itself is fine. I think having ads that you need to go quickly is fine. I think the fact that the dogs gain damage by being close to each other is fine. Um, the Rylax, I think they're a little unforgiving if those acid puddles hit extremely hard.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the fight is a problem. And so for tuning reasons, I'd put it. Nah, that's not fair. I'd go low B.
Yeah. I'll settle to that one. This one's first boss of Grimrail. I don't know. It's like I'm just gonna say C. There's not enough things in C. This guy's annoying. He
Yeah,
jumps around all the time.
there's not a lot to say about it. It's an uptime boss, so that
Yeah.
minus points there. The damage is pretty wild. It definitely feels like slightly overtuned, not crazy, but enough that it's kind of like whoa, what's going on here? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I also
so
don't think I think like the stuff like Slam, I think ranged hate that too. I'm pretty sure ranged think that's super annoying. Like
um,
the quaking effects, you know?
yeah, I mean, in fairness, all right, I got no sympathy for him. Okay, they just get to stand there and blast the bosses, right? Um, I think that's fine. I think really the damage is kind of the main issue with this boss. The uptime is kind of a problem. I mean, you can't just kind of be stationary on the big guy and damage the little one when it's in its damage amp phase, which is fine. Yeah, overall, I think C tier mostly because of tuning.
Also, because explosives can spawn on the top of the
That's
boxes
true.
when he's
Yeah,
up there.
that was super weird.
That's
Just
toxic.
explosives that are LOS but not LOS enough to avoid the damage. Yeah, that was super.
Yeah. All right, last shit share. Skullock, I think just straight to D.
Really.
Yeah, he's too long. He has the problem again. I really hate time-based phasing like that because again, that means every tyrannical level adds much more health than it's already like
That's fair.
more effective health than it already should. The cannon I think is like turbo unforgiving. Obviously, it's better now that it doesn't have that one thing that would like randomly one-shot your melee anymore, the skull slash or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Um,
fair. I can meet you on D that one. I do think
the
that
knockback with
the
quaking that never got fixed really.
well, no, in fairness, they did fix it. Won't get quaked in the air just when
Yeah,
you
I don't
land.
know. That's just
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
I'll agree to D tier on that one. I agree with you that time based garages, um, it's not a mechanic. Well, you go
Yeah,
up one key level, you're adding I don't know extra minute to your fight because you're gonna have a whole extra rush phase.
yeah. I don't know. I really wish stuff like that would just be purely made to be percentage based. Um, because of that issue, right? It's the Ingram Alec problem. It's the like Cedar Browse, that one boss, like the second boss, same problem. Um, it's just that thing where it's like the boss is just. I mean, the Trinicle's already a problem, and just adding that makes it even worse. Salasmi, D for does not work. Fuck this boss.
Um,
I hate Salasmi so much.
yeah,
I
I'm gonna go C. Just the only redeeming factor is it's actually like very satisfying to be able to accurately predict if you can wait portal or not. Being able to like quickly recognize and like identify the options that you have, I think is the one redeeming quality of that fight. But otherwise, yeah, everything else about it is bad.
it's buggy.
Uptime is bad.
Yeah.
The
I
RNG on the
uh
Valky was really bad.
yeah.
Um, it's yeah, I'll go C. I don't think it's nearly as bad as the bosses we have in D tier, so I'm gonna go C.
I'm gonna keep it in D for my personal. I don't know. I think it's so bad. I've bugged out like 3 times in the past week where I just can't see where they're going. I like don't get
That
any
was
dancing rune open
funny.
up
That
time.
was funny, dude.
That is funny, but
All right.
also this boss is dumb. I don't know. I just wish I just D for do not design bosses like this anymore. Please, Blizz.
Fair enough.
I
Fair
don't know.
enough.
Get this thing out of my face. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Uh, Celia is this one. Uh,
So
I
I
don't know.
okay. So I would actually put it in S. I'm gonna drop it to A specifically because of the first phase and how utterly useless that phase is. Which it just makes the boss fight way too. But otherwise, I think it's a banger fight. I think the mechanics are super cool and interesting. Um,
True.
I think the coordination between um, pretty much your whole team, when it, I mean, obviously, hitting the stars is kind of whatever. I think the collapsing star coordination can be really interesting. Um,
True.
yeah, I think it really is a good fight. I think the tech you can do with the ads is really good. Again, I think just the main thing that it loses points for is that you have to do 60% of the boss's health only to do 100% of the boss's health again.
Yeah. Yeah, that was disappointing for being too long of a fight for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Tussle Tonks Arena. I'm gonna put that in just straight to D
Yep,
as a
that is a
deboner.
D tier boss.
That's I don't know, just
Like,
no, it's not fun. I hate just walking this slow boss around. So like all the memes people make about NPC follow quests, where it's
mhm.
like not quite fast enough for your run speed, but not quite slow enough for your walk speed. That's just what tanking that guy around feels like. The Vengeance is just so unfair, and it's not like clear on what's gonna hit you and what's not.
Yeah,
And like, it's we've had to just like randomly spin around sometimes for no reason.
yeah.
I don't know.
Usually, so I have deduced, not randomly spin around, caused by the Huntard friend. It shadow meld anything.
Yeah,
Oh, I need the 10% DR for my death. Well, all right. Um, yeah, no, it's an absolute ass boss. The fact that it's a two target boss that you cannot two target cleave on is trash. The fact that a melee are targeted by the vent flames, insane amount of uptime. Um, the arena is extremely large, so you often range healer during the high damage checks. The saw blades are
oh
incredibly
yeah,
unfair because they have the most ridiculous hitboxes ever in our game, worse than first boss of Iron Dogs.
yeah.
Um,
It's come out of nowhere.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
stinker.
boss for
All right, the question for Tova: S or A now with all the changes, or B?
it's
I don't know.
B.
I think A
It's B.
probably.
It's B. And there's one singular reason,
Let's hear it. Let's hear it for
and
the B's.
there is no indicator for the spear.
Oh, true. Big true.
Yeah, that I mean the now that they've made the changes, the telegraphs for the lightning puddles is great. It actually has basically opened up um, free space that we did not know existed before.
Yeah.
There is empty space between each of the sections where you can stand during the lightning puddles. So I didn't know that before the telegraph, so that's super helpful. Again, just the main issue is no indicator for the boss your frontal thingy, whatever it does. And the fact that it's a normal sized mob, not like an oversized boss like usual, means that particularly for ranged, you really can't see where it's going, so it's pretty much entirely dependent on your melee to tell you if it's coming at you or not. Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, so for that reason alone,
Sure. That's fair. Rounding up the back end of our list, we got Trixie and Nano. Um,
dude, all right. D tier, and you know exactly why this is going into D tier.
D tier for Megatase always goes on Kaine.
Yep,
XD.
yep, 100%. Nah, for
I
real
mean,
though, I think the boss is boring.
yeah,
There's nothing interesting about the boss. Um, the not, I mean, not that it really has too many redeeming factors, but a further negative would be the fact that it basically requires you to pull trash that you don't want to pull, because of the of Nano's kind of random positioning of his motorcycle.
yeah,
So, you know, particularly the crawler that's next to the boss, you don't really want to pull that, but you kind of have to, or else you're just gonna risk that the boss is gonna pull it anyway, and then you're 100%. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as the bosses in D, so I'll move it up to C. But I think it's pretty ass boss. There's nothing really going on there.
True. I would put it like with B for like the boring bosses, but with the fact that it just has it's kind of like body pull central. I think that can be moved down to C for that.
Okay.
Then we got Vizdoom. I don't know, man. It's whatever. It's whatever, boss. I think the bats are super dumb.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely a lot
Um,
more fair now. Although purple on a dark blue slash dark green canvas is hard to see, but at least there's a telegraph for it now. Definitely helpful. I'd honestly probably put it in A.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because
For a couple of reasons. One, the phase two cheese thing. Um, well, it's an interesting cheese, not particularly interesting. But helpful. I do think that again, it's a boss that's very rewarding. Organized play. Um, Coordinating the dispels on the orbs is incredibly useful. Um, yeah, I mean nothing crazy. It's got a cool like AOE burn phase at the end, which is nice. Um, yeah, I mean I think it's a good boss. Not S tier, but good. I like it.
one thing I actually just realized didn't make it on this list is Medivh.
Ooh.
Um, but I think we would just put Medivh in D tier, right? Medivh tier.
Let's finish up here and talk about Medivh.
Sure. So we got uh Zol, Zigzag, Zimzom Zoom, first boss of Streets. Um, I think it used to be fine, but now that they made them prison scale with Tyrannical and like key level and stuff,
Yeah, I'm gonna go C
I,
this one. I don't think it's
yeah,
quite D tier. I think the main issues with the boss is yes, buffing the prison containment cell. That was a horrible change that didn't need to happen. It basically requires immunity reaction potions now. Especially on high tyrannical keys, because realistically, you're just never gonna kill that cell. Or if you do, I mean, someone's gonna die anyway because it does so much damage when you're in it. Um, the unavoidable damage is very unfair. That being the contraband that does so much damage on tyrannical keys.
yeah,
Um,
and it's an uptime killer.
yeah, the rotating shield is really kind of bullshit, particularly for range. Doesn't really matter for melee.
Yeah,
Um,
but it just doesn't need to be there.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't.
This
Yeah,
boss also
it's
just melees your tank for a
yeah,
billion
yeah,
damage.
exactly. It hits your tank so freaking hard. So yeah, I think C tier is where that Jimmy John goes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then you've got Medivh, which I guess I forgot to put on this list. I think Medivh goes in D tier. Um,
Um, I will agree to D tier solely on the condition that not condition, but the fact that it is incredibly overtuned.
yeah, it's
I think if it
overtuned.
was tuned correctly, that is an absolute banger fight.
I don't know. I still don't really agree.
So the only part that I'll say is not a banger about it is the fact that the ability phases are random. If they were not random, that is an S tier fight, hands down, no question about it. Um,
Sure.
Particular again, I do not consider bug friendliness when I like want to rate bosses. Um, the fact that again, it's a very rewarding boss play as an organized group.
Sure.
Coordinating kicks, coordinating, um, when things can be not kicked because the person can dodge it. Um, all that kind of stuff. Really great. Even the ad phase, great. Able to coordinate. Okay, we're gonna go over and kick these two. You guys do this one and whatnot. I think it's a really great fight. It's just horribly overtuned, and so that's why I will concede.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's insane that like one because we had like one wipe earlier where it was like one tick of Flame Wreath plus one tick of Inferno Bolt that was on somebody did 60k and killed them in the group instantly at 0.4%. I mean that stuff is just like it's just I don't know. I think it's too unforgiving. I don't particularly think. I think even in coordinated groups, I don't particularly think like coordinating kicks is interesting as a boss mechanic like that. I don't really like it. I mean, I think even for high end groups, it just puts like too much on the group. I think just because it's so easy that like overlapping kicks can be done wrong, or like especially with again like his kicks aren't um they're like random, right? They don't come out in a consistent order, um, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree to the random spell queuing, random abilities is the worst part about the. But again, I do think that a lot of those issues would be solved just by tuning. The randomized abilities is still would be kind of bullshit, but um they were tuned a bit more accordingly, it wouldn't be so bad. I'd say the only
Yeah,
part of the fight that, tuning aside, that is pretty unfair, is the fact that the images add duration to the whereas
yeah,
the other two don't. So that part being random is kind of unfair.
cool. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Wow, perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's a tier list, that's for sure. Now the yeah, I don't know. I think overall, uh, I think the bosses this kind of stinky. There's a couple bangers. It's a rough one out there in the